All right. Thank y'all very much for coming out to the first event of the New Orleans Poetry Fest Roadshow. How y'all feeling out there? You feel good? You feel ready? Feel ready for some poetry? I would like to thank Allison Pellegrin and Southeastern Louisiana University for organizing and hosting the New Orleans Poetry Festival here. On behalf of NOPF, funding for this event has been partially provided by the state of Louisiana and administered by the Louisiana Endowment for the Humanities. Additionally, New Orleans Poetry Festival expresses extreme gratitude to the Literature Translation Institute of Korea for funding the Korean poets and translator at this event. We have 6 poets who will perform today. 3 Louisiana residents and 3 are Korean residents. After all the poets have performed, we'll have a brief Q&A, so feel free to stir up some questions during your listening this afternoon. We'll begin with the Louisiana poets. So up first is going to be Sky Jackson. She was born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana. Her work has appeared in the Southern Review, Electric Literature, Green Mountain Review, Rattle, and elsewhere. Her chapbook, A Faster Grave, won the 2019 Antenna Prize. Her work has been a finalist for the 2023 Iowa Review Poetry Award, the Rattle Poetry Prize, the Rhino Founders Prize, and in 2021 she received the AWP Intro Journals Award. Sky's work was also selected by Billy Collins for inclusion in the Library of Congress Poetry 180 project. In 2022, she won the KGB Open Mic Contest in New York City and served as the writer-in-residence at the Key West Literary Seminar in Florida. Her debut full-length poetry collection, Libre, will be published in the summer of 2024, which is coming up here. By Regalo Press and distributed by Simon & Schuster, she currently teaches at Xavier University. So which mic would you want? You want this one or that one? All right.
Hi everyone, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yay, awesome. I'm so happy to be here with y'all. This is amazing. Thank you to Sean for that wonderful introduction, and to Allison for hosting us here. It's really, really incredible. So I'm gonna read some poems for y'all. The first one is called, Can We Touch Your Hair? At the parades, everyone wants to touch my hair. On the corner of St. Charles and Marengo, I am cold and smashed and puffy AF. When 2 white women try to convince me that they love my hair. No, they really, really do, they say. Because it is so black and thick and curly and soaking up all the water in the damp air. The mousy one says through an Alabama drawl, God, you can do so much with it. And her blonde friend says, you can't do a damn thing with mine, won't even hold a curl. She runs away to grab another friend and says to her, Stacy, isn't it even prettier than Macy Gray's? We just love her, don't we? They circle me and ask, can we touch your hair? Then, suddenly, just like my ancestors long ago, I am pulled apart, soft, by pale hands from all directions. Thank you. Thanks, y'all. This next poem is called No Foul Play Suspected, and I wrote it in honor of an LSU student. Her name was Corey Gautier, who took her own life a few years ago. Her story really resonated with me, and so this poem is dedicated to her. It begins with an epigraph written by Eugenia Lee. Everyone warns us off the rocks, but what will keep us from the river? You left your phone and purse open on the passenger seat in a new car on a bridge overlooking the Mississippi River. You did not take the keys out of the ignition. You left the car, an 18th birthday present from your parents still running. You rushed to your blind date with death as though it were the dental appointment scheduled in your Google Calendar for the next morning. There was no need for seduction. You were a sure thing. So you stood on the cement lip of the bridge and cast yourself over the guardrail without a sound, like a fishing line gliding into the muddied water. Your headlights were still on as the tow truck arrived. No one, not even the tow truck driver, stopped to wonder why. Car running, phone and purse inside, engine still breathing, though you were no longer. When he rigged your car to his truck, without so much of a backward glance, he confirmed your haunting. No one cares. I imagine your ochre eyes, beautiful and sick with tired, anchored to the water below. Tell me this. If no one is around to hear the sound of a brown girl plunging like a dagger into a river, did she ever even fall at all? No foul play suspected is all that the papers will say. Out of respect for the family, the police chief refuses to speak on the topic any further. They will not call your death a suicide out of respect. The drowned girl silenced twice. I ask myself, where do you run when nowhere, not even home, will suffice? I was like you once, saw the river as comfort, a dark crib to nurse my suffering. The water, Stygian and full of possibilities, delicious silence. What if I had driven off the bridge, as desire called me to, under the blurred veil of my tears? A wedding of brown water and browner skin. Would I have beckoned to you from the river bottom on a jagged marital bed of rock, the current pushing our bodies together as the curve of the moon smiled down at the light of its own reflection on the water? Thank you. This next poem is called Far Too Kind. I walk into the dining room and sit down as candles light up a thicket of white faces that surround me. Across the table, a lady smiles at me and says, "God, I loved your book. It was so real." She talks as everyone else prods their slick Mandarin salads and listens. My mind is still outside, uptown on Peniston, and circles the block in search of a place to park. I flip my thick twists out of my eyes, check my teeth for red lipstick in the rearview mirror. I find a spot as a white woman draped in the shadow of a dark mansion across the street has stopped to watch me. Her platinum hair shines white as sin under the streetlights, her gaze sharp, like an elegant heel pinned into the nape of my neck. I lock the car door, turn to her and smile hello, but she doesn't respond, just stares as I walk up to the house, fumble with the fence latch, still aware of that stare that followed me to the dining room table, that passed me the coq au vin, that poured another rush of Bourgogne into my glass, that crushed me with polite conversation. My hand shakes slightly as I finally respond. Thank you so much for reading. You are far too kind. Thank you so much. I think I have time for one more poem. Okay. So I will end with this one. The boys with dead mothers get better with time. The boys with dead mothers get better with time. The white boy in law school eluded me, like a flash of light in murky water, hid me away in study rooms or his parents' Mississippi mansion, like a letter that wasn't supposed to be read. Or when I asked him about the book in his car, The Goldfinch, after we spent the night together, he told me it was about a boy and a painting, not a boy and his dead mother. how years later it would all make sense. In LA, the boy with the dead mother begged me not to leave him the first night we met. Over Louis Armstrong and wine, he kissed me and just said, "Stay." In New Orleans, the boy with the dead mother tells me that he missed his mother's gravy at my parents' house this past Thanksgiving. He asked me if we can roast a chicken to replicate the thickness of the sauce, the way she smeared seasoning all over it. He tells me how he and his father fought over the bacon she laid tender over the breasts like blankets. Why do I love boys whose mothers are dead? What am I hoping that they see in me? What am I hoping that they don't? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sky. Next up, we have Carolyn Hembry, whose third collection for today was published by LSU Press in 2024. It's the one up on the table right here, right?
Right.
Yeah, you're right. As part of their Barataria series at LSU Press. She is also the author of Rigging a Chevy into a Time Machine and Other Ways to Escape the Plague from Trio House Press in 2016. Winner of the 2015 Trio Award and the 2015 Rochelle Ratner Memorial Award, and Skinny from Corre Press in 2012. She received a 2016 to 2017 Atlas Grant from the Louisiana Board of Regents, and has also received grants and fellowships from Penn, Louisiana Division of the Arts, and the Southern Arts Federation. A professor in the MFA program at the University of New Orleans, she was awarded the 2017 International Alumni Association Excellence in Teaching Award. Carolyn also serves as poetry editor of Bayou Magazine. Please welcome Carolyn Hembry.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Sean, and thank you, Bill, and the NOPF board for making this possible and inviting me. Thank you, Allison and Southeastern, for hosting this. It's really cool to have our books side by side, because we're also pressmates and part of the same series, with Ava Level-Hammond being our editor. So we've shared some fun stories about that. I will be reading from this collection, and that was amazing, Sky. I mean, that was amazing. Thank you. It's so great to hear this one. I had the treat of Sky has a book coming out called Libre. I'm just gonna talk about this for a quick second of my time. Sky has a book coming out called Libre. She graduated with honors from the University of New Orleans MFA program where I teach, so I'm gonna take a second for this. It's called Libre and it's coming out in February, right? And so you were hearing poems from that fantastic book that you definitely are gonna hear more about as it's starting to come out. I'll be reading 3 poems to you that are love poems for New Orleans. They comprise the 3rd section of this book, which is a thin section. The first poem is a little bit longer. They're occasional sort of, I would say, public-facing poems that I haven't read this first one in a long time. It was written after Katrina. I've lived in New Orleans since 2001, so I am not a local. I was not born and bred. I moved here in 2001, and when I returned home after Hurricane Katrina, I saw a playground, carousel, and church that I was going to, fairly often. It was kind of this landmark to me that I was going to as part of a project. And it sat under 6 to 8 feet of water for many weeks. And the flooding, of course, due to Hurricane Katrina, was caused by a breach of levees that were, as we all know, not built to specifications by the Army Corps of Engineers. And so they were, I think, shorted by like 15 feet or so, some of the levees, which caused that breach. And 1,392 people died as a direct result of Hurricane Katrina. So first I'll read this poem, this occasional poem. August 29th, 2005. O pony of South Durbany, O leaping yellow on yellow pole, carousel pony of South Durbany. Flooded pony, O risen out of cobbled chimney, of shuttered mud hut, of shut down pawn shop, pony of South Durbany. In attic windows, In amphibious tanks, in Black Hawks, in styrofoam boats, in whale-muraled vans, in the alligator belly, up on the highway pony of South Germany. Pony of South Germany, the airboat mother. Her Gatorade, her S earrings, her babying, her baby. Night sky baby blanket slipping off the slipping head. Oh, yellow-crowned night heron on the up-ended light pole, the golden retriever in the black marsh, the rotting Rottweiler on chain link pony of South Germany, and stadium domes and sky lights of domes emptied of pony of South Germany, emptied of spotlights on boys mid-spree horsing and Boy Scout knots across chests on gurneys. Oh, gurneys of South Germany. Slick jackets knotted at the waist, waist deep in South Germany, chest deep and dog paddling, pony of South Germany, past steeple bell speakers, past 6 headbanging hotel palms, pony of South Germany, they crash onto crashed Pontiacs, past umbrella oars, past hands waterlogged into papier-mâché gloves, raising the dead, reflected power line for reflected aluminum canoes to pass. Past them all. Pony of South Germany, oh pony of the mud hut floated into the street. Kid clothes on the clothesline. Pony of the thread count of those under sheets, their feet jerking. How can they still be jerking? Pony of the body count. On baggage carousels, body. On slate tiles, in attics, in lawn chairs, in short sleeves, the lawn chair. In parking lots, count. On grass, in sunflower flip-flops, in rubber-banded cornmeal box shoes, a girl I remember, in shopping carts, in a wheelchair, under a t-shirt veil, count. In off-the-shoulder hospital gowns, in uprooted, black-rooted trees, in prosthetic limbs, the souvenir boas, the dyed jet hair body in the long pelted mink, backless on chain link, in armoires, count. In armories, count. In arms, count. On buses, on interstate ramps, arms raised like a conductor against the sky, in cerulean housecoats with foam white buttons, I count, exploding on South Germany. In one drenched sock, hand in hand, body sighing on plywood. In the air, on knees, cross-legged on the airport floor, you pony of South Germany in the prettiest beaded ghost suit I remember. Drying on a shredded screen door, concentric rings in the floodwater, cattle dog nosing, Black Hawk hovering, pony of South Germany, the long yellow hides of summer. Now I will, oh, thank you. Now I will read a little something lighter, a little thread, just a thread for you of haiku. And I think I can curse.
Don't you fucking dare.
Don't you fucking do that shit again. 5 haiku. First sturgeon moon. Yellow-crowned night heron. Bright fish thrashing. Rue so dark, it perfumes our street. Knock, knock. Nursery window. A finch dive bombs the cat. Build higher nests. Coughing all night. Black air sown with spit. Hot house flowers. Glad to still smell wet magnolia, I fuck. Outdoors, like the young. That's my cuss word. No more cuss words from me. And I will close, I'm in time. April 2020 is a walking poem that takes place during one of the first COVID surges. April 2020, and it also pieces in little bits of Chaucer, that's fine. April 2020, that hem have open lawn that they were sick. Who helped them when they were sick? The general prologue of the Canterbury Tales. Not big on pilgrimages, yet this fever drifts from house to house. One leaky pirogue adrift, empty, listing to one side on the bayou. I look inside my neighbor's yellow house. Joy of a yellow house. Shades up, rainbows chalked on the walkway under a palms moving shade palm where wild parrots roost. I play like it's mine. My neighbor's breakfast nook, the playpen, a last cold bite. A friend was topping off my glass last night when a rolling violin solo, show tune, woke me. Here, prone is transitive, to roll the sick onto their stomachs so that they breathe. Transitory strings receded down the avenue above night transit. It's lighter now. Night birds sang, yes, we hear you again. I sang along, mask maker, make me. Not a carnival mask on one you don't know you know until they're in you. Breathy sobriquet, dark alcove, the quarter. No, the other kind of mask, so we breathe for centuries, alone. Today I walk through another April shower under April canopies where my thoughts footnote old lines. One the top reel. Parish pilgrims arrive. On winds, on foot, by bike, by car, by bus, by streetcar. Nowhere to be, no intercessor, I join them. We roam the neutral ground, weeping, scrolling news on screens that light our masks. So many magnolia petals. Our hair, the wind unscrolls. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carolyn. As a member of the local New Orleans coalition, your application was accepted and you are a New Orleans local now, just so you know. Sky's also in the coalition. Next up, we have Allison Pellegrin, our current Louisiana Poet Laureate. She is the author. She is the author of 4 collections, most recently Waterlines, 2016, and Our Lady of Bewilderments, 2022, both with LSU Press. The recipient of fellowships from the NEA and the Louisiana Board of Regents. She is writer-in-residence at Southeastern Louisiana University, which you all probably know, since that's where we are. She has worked in recent or forthcoming issues of the Missouri Review, the Bennington Review, Limprist, and as printable broadsides at Broadsided. Please welcome Allison Pellegrin.
Thank you all for being here. I'm so excited for this weekend and all of the great stuff to come at the New Orleans Poetry Festival. When I was a kid, the men in my family used to play a joke on me. They had a mounted buck on the wall in the living room, and they told me that the back end of it was in the closet in the other room. And stupid Allison, the future poet, used to go look every time I went over there. And so that's how, they don't care if I'm the poet laureate, that's the story they tell. And in this way, the world passed me by. I am the one who flipped through all these books, dog-earing pages, so it's appropriate to refer to me as old soul, or at the very least ageless and wise, even though I obeyed the uncles who sent me hunting for the tail end of a mounted buck they said was on the other side of the wall. In yellowed snapshots, I stand out in the family lineup for my halter tops and the look on my face, which is that of one who hears the ocean churn without a seashell in sight. Places I have never been are where I think I was born, full grown, but with something to learn each time floodwaters wipe clean the slate. I've been writing these little things, I'm calling them petite haibun, so they end with haikus, and here's one. I got asked to recite a poem of mine on TV one time, and of course I drew a blank. And all I could come up with was the violent image at the end of this poem, which we'll get to. It's called gauche, meaning left or like faux pas. I grew up on the West Bank, which I learned was gauche when I went to school uptown. I renounced the slab house suburbs, though in secret I loved how sameness belied the mystery of inside lives. One had mimosa trees. One caught fire twice. The pink one served as drop cloth for a suicide. The bayou flecked with gars was not the cesspool I made it out to be. Somebody kept hunting dogs in a run that backed up to the water. They lunged for my fingers through the fence, and I never gave up trying to make friends. Everything is different now, wrong. Houses changing hands so many times that neighbors or strangers suspicious of me returning to our hideaway, repurposed with benches and native plants. Butterfly garden in a spot where we butchered nutria for teeth. And that's the part I accidentally recited on TV. Petite haibun. Riding my bike through floodwaters or leveling ruts in the driveway with gravel from the fish tank, I travel nowhere but back in time, and the waters always follow. Random delights mislabeled as boredom are recognizable in hindsight only. The floods of childhood wait to re-anoint me with their muck. I kept a clamshell in my pocket to touch before walking barefoot into the bayou that sometimes overflowed. I believed I was untouchable, even while high-kicking in shrimp boots atop the culvert trailing slime, even en route to the ER in a pirogue before my throat closed. And I'll close with this poem, which is called Feast with a Mouthful of Bees. It used to be part of a sonnet crown, so that's 15 sonnets that line up together, but really the only one I liked was the last one, so that was 4 months down the drain. I know, but you know, who cares? Feast with a mouthful of bees. I was doomsday's daughter, ignoring the hum of everyday ungilded twitching things, ecstatic, enraged, brimming with questions and lies. I stumbled through violent and ordinary times with a drink in each hand, my head crowded with cusses and snark and the sound of me screaming underwater. Razor days. I'd rather cough up fish hooks than try to understand. Long list of harms with wonders mixed in. Can it be enough? The words sting, bees on my tongue. I vibrate from the inside out. I call on strangers to testify that sometimes I weep for no reason. That clover fills my footsteps as foretold. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Allison. The next three poets are the special treat here. They flew in from South Korea this Saturday, so they just got into town a few days ago. It's a very long flight, but I'm very thankful they're here. I'd like to thank, before they start reading, I'd like to thank again the Literary Translation Institute of Korea for funding this event and funding their travel down here to do a series of events. So they'll be doing events all throughout the roadshow and at the Poetry Festival Friday night at 6:30. They're going to do a panel at 6:30 and they'll do a performance at 7 p.m. So first up is Ha Jae-yoon. She started her career in 2002 when she received the award for Best New Poet from the journal Literature and Society. She received a PhD in modern Korean literature from Korea University for her research in 1930s Korean poetry. She also was the recipient of the third Yangnam Ilbo Kusang Literature Prize. She is the author of the poetry collections Radio Days from Moonji Press in 2006, Like All the Beaches in the World from Moonji in 2012, and Universal Hello from Moonji in 2019. She is also the author of the research books Adventures of Modern Poetry and Moving Chosun Language from Samyang Press in 2012, The Imagination of Literature and the Action of Poetry from Bagosa in 2022, Infinite Love of Paradox from Bagosa also in 2022, and the collection of essays To the Darkened Lights by the Coming of Me from Moonji in 2023. English translations of her poems appeared in Poems of Hwang Yuan, Ha Jae-yoon, and Seao Dae-kyung, edited and introduced by Jake Levine from Vagabond Press in 2020. In addition, the poetry collection Radion Days was published in English, translated by Soo-hyun Bae from Black Ocean Press in 2023. After the pandemic, she began a series of poems that she has begun publishing called Undead and the Origin of Species. Please welcome Jae-yoon.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm so happy to read my poems here, and thank you for inviting me, Sean, Bill, and NOPF, and Southeastern University, and also Jake Levine, and Arati. My poems of today are about the hybridity and colonialism of language. So I think New Orleans, Louisiana is the best place for reading these poems, especially the first one and second one. I wrote these poems after talking with Australian poet Marina South. Invisible Project she is a descendant of native Australian, so she is doing preserving of her native culture. So I wrote these two poems after talking with her. Okay, thank you. Begin? Okay. 흰 페이지들.
White pages.
주어진 페이지들이 함부로 당도한 까마득한 발자국들로 뒤덮여 있을 때 흰 빛은 어떻게 되찾을까?
When footprints that arrived without permission from far away cover the given pages, how are the pages going to get their whites back?
발자국에서 자라나는 벽들의 높이와
The height of the bricks growing from footprints,
발자국에서 증폭하는 입들의 묵음이
and the silence of mouths amplifying from footprints.
페이지의 두께를 더해가는 식민의 계절에도 자라나는 것들이 있다.
Even in the season of colonization that thickens the pages, things grow.
시간의 틈새에서 솟아난 균류처럼 우리는 무성하게 입을 벌리고 결국에는 밀림처럼
Like fungi that spores in the cracks of time. When we open our mouths thickly, in the end, like a jungle,
빽빽하고 야만스러워지는 것.
we become dense and barbaric.
바람은 기원을 알 수 없는 곳에서 불어오고 페이지들이 끝을 모른 채 넘어간다.
Wind blows here from an unknown place, and pages flip and flip and flip.
정박지도 도로도 없이 길을 잃다 만난 너와 나.
Without anchor or road, you and I met when we lost our way.
우리에게는 미개발의 빛들이 도착하고야 마는 것이다.
The undeveloped light finally reaches us.
Thank you. Next one. 추방된 자들.
The exiled.
여러 개로 갈라지는 혀를 가졌기에
Because we have a tongue that splits into multiples,
우리는 순종할 수 없습니다.
We can't obey.
당신들이 당신들을 남용하여
In this small world,
빛이 너무 많아졌습니다.
there became too much light
이 작은 세계에
because you abuse yourselves.
파도가 데려온 산호의 끝처럼 무한하게 회귀하는 말의 갈퀴에 쓸려
I'm swept away by rakes of speech and return infinitely, like the ends of coral washed up by waves.
무지하고 아름다운 아이들이 사라졌어요.
Clueless and beautiful children vanished.
빛이 있으라 했어도 어둠이 더욱 필요한 몸뚱이들이 태어납니다.
Even if you say, let there be light, bodies that need more darkness are born.
번식하는 문맹의 시간 속
In the time of breeding illiteracy,
내 혀에서 솟아나는
in the prayers of the countless horns,
무수한 뿔들이 읊조리는 기도에는
spurting from my tongue,
신도 나라도 없습니다.
there is no God or country.
Thank you. 벌써 피터건 한 사람
A person.
나는 길게 누워있는 섬 위의 저녁 구름에 서린 분홍 같은 것이었다가 조금씩 시간이 흘러 이렇게 한 사람이 되었습니다.
After I used to be like that frosty pink on the night cloud hanging over that long stretched out island, just as time passes slowly, I became a person.
가끔 화단 끝에 우두커니 깜빡 잠들었다 혼자 깨어나 어안이 벙벙해진 오후의 친구를 놀래키는 흐린 그림자 같은 것이었는데 지금은 한 사람이 되었습니다.
Sometimes, after momentarily dozing into sleep and waking up alone at the end of a flower bed, dazed, I was like the murky shadow of a friend that startles you awake in the afternoon. But now, I became a person.
부드러운 산호,
Soft coral,
코튼 캔디의 파랑,
the blue of cotton candy.
바다로 떨어지는 빗방울들,
In the ocean, raindrops are falling.
위로 떠오르는 밤의 달의 반쪽 얼굴.
From the half face of the night moon climbing above.
미래에서 자고 있는 내 아이의 꿈에 들려오는 자장가.
The lullaby I sing in the dream of my child who sleeps in the future.
들어본 적 없이 떠오르는 노래의 끊어진 마디들.
The final verse of a song no one has ever heard.
파도는 밀려왔다 밀려가는 동안 흰 모래와 석양과 별빛들을 얼마나 가져갔다 되돌려 주러 오는지 사라진 계절들이 겹쳐져 지구의 밖의 하늘은 점점 더 검어집니다.
After the tide rolls in, while it rolls out again, the waves pull white sand, the setting sun and starlight, returning them back to their place. Vanished seasons overlap, darkening the sky outside the earth.
그리고 나는 세상에 떠있는 나라들, 해변의 이름과 조각과 색깔을 엮어 만든 조개 껍데기 목걸이에 끊어진 줄을 잇고 있는 하나의 사람이 되었습니다.
And cutting the string of a seashell necklace that connects the colors, pieces, and names of all the beaches in all the countries floating on earth, I became a person.
Thank you. And the rest one is the most romantic poem in my poetry. 안녕 드라큘라.
Hello, Dracula.
당신이 나를 당신의 안으로 들여보내준다면 나는 아이의 얼굴이거나 노인의 얼굴로 영원히 당신의 곁에 남아 사랑을 다할 수 있다.
If you let me inside you, I will stay by your side forever. And with the face of a child or an old man, I will give you all of my love.
세 개의 방들은 처음부터 끝까지 햇살로 가득하지만
From beginning to end, even though all the rooms of the world are filled with sunshine,
당신이 살아있는 사실, 그 아름다움을 아는 이는 나 하나뿐.
the fact that you're alive, how beautiful to know that I'm the only one who knows it.
당신은 당신의 소년을 버리지 않아도 좋고 나는 나의 소녀를 버리지 않아도 좋은 것이다.
It's okay if you don't abandon the boy in you, and it's okay if I don't desert the girl in me.
세 개의 방들은 온통 열려있는 문들로 가득하지만
Even though all the rooms in the world are full of wide open doors,
당신이 고통스럽다는 사실, 그 아름다움을 아는 이는 나 하나뿐.
the fact you're in agony, how beautiful to know that I am the only one who knows it.
당신이 나를 당신에게 허락해 준다면 나는 순백의 신부이거나 순결한 미치광이로
If you give me your permission to become a white bride or virgin lunatic,
당신이 당신임을 증명할 것이다.
I will be the evidence that you are you.
쏟아지는 어둠 속에서 우리는 우리의 아이가 아니라 우리 자신을 낳을 것이고 우리가 낳은 우리들은 정말로 살아갈 것이다.
In the gushing darkness, rather than birthing a baby, we will give birth to ourselves. The we that we will make will really live.
당신이 세상에서 처음 내는 목소리로 안녕 하고 말해준다면
But only if you say hey in a voice that's never been used in the world,
나의 귀가 이 세계의 빛나는 햇살 속에서 멀어버리지 않는다면
only if my ears don't go deaf in the sunlight that brightens this world.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jayon. Next up is Jake Levine, the man in the beautiful yellow shirt over there. Jake Levine is an assistant professor of creative writing at Kim Young University. He has written and translated or co-translated over a dozen books, including Kim Yi-dum's Hysteria from Action Books in 2019, which was the first book to be awarded both the National Translation Award and the Lucian Strike Prize. He is a former Fulbright Fellow to Lithuania in 2010, a recipient of a Korean government scholarship, served as an assistant editor at Acta Koreana, as a poetry editor at Sport Press, as the managing editor and editor-in-chief at Sonora Review, and currently edits the award-winning contemporary Korean poetry series Moon Country at Black Ocean. He has also translated other cultural contents, such as Young Hyung Kyung's diaries and narration for the K-pop group Hyphen. His first full-length book of poetry, The Imagined Country, came out with Tolson Books in 2023. Please welcome Jake Levine.
I should also mention I'm also super jet lagged. We just got here on Saturday and it's like a 14-hour time difference. And it turns out that the jet lag doesn't get better, it gets worse as the days go on. So, but we're here. First time in Louisiana for me. I'm from Arizona, but I've lived in Korea now for 12 years. And I'm lucky to be here with two of my favorite poets. All right, I'll read some poems from my new book. It's called The Imagined Country. I have a few copies here for sale. It's choose your own adventure prices. So basically, like as much as you want to give. I gotta get rid of them all before I go back to Korea, because books weigh a lot. All right, here's one of the poems from the book. This is the air that fascinates, because I got some alumni, University of Arizona alumni here. Yeah. I block my mom because she keeps sending me links, and because blocking my mom makes me feel guilty, I block myself. This is the air that fascinates, is a line by John Anderson in his poem, The Secret of Poetry. The line is less memorable than the ending of the poem that says, "The secret of poetry is cruelty." I like "This is the air that fascinates" more than "The secret of poetry is cruelty" because it is less memorable. I use the line whenever bad things happen, and because dogs are always getting sick, because the sky is filling with cancerous dust, because ice melts, and because the parts of my back that I can't reach always itch. This is the air that fascinates. When I messaged my brother to tell him that I blocked my mom and "this is the air that fascinates," he asked me, "WTF does that mean?" And I responded, "The secret of poetry is cruelty." I have heard many a scholar say poetry articulates the ineffable. I have also told students that we need poetic language to describe feelings, attitudes, and thoughts that can't be communicated in regular language. But I have been using poetic language long enough to know that almost all of my feelings, attitudes, and thoughts are better left uncommunicated. I once had a student tell me they couldn't write poems because they have no feelings. I asked, "How does it feel to have no feelings?" They said, "Like trying to eat a bagel, but when you bite down, the only thing in your mouth is the hole." When my student finished speaking, I could feel the presence of a great bagel hole standing between us, like a whole human-flavored bagel split into two halves. I looked through the bagel hole at the student, and the student looked through the bagel hole at me. This is the air that fascinates. This is another poem, a very serious one. It's called "On the Banks of Having Your Shit Together River." On the banks of having your shit together river, holding the compass of human responsibility, the needle spinning around the dial, on the steed, a steel donkey with bronzed legs, I struggle upriver, tipping my feathered cap to the purple-mouthed nymphs, wobbling in the wine-drunk fog that floats atop a batshit breeze. Is that wheeze the death rattle of a great beast, some dragon's breath? In the night sky, out of all the filled moons that emptied out, I wonder, how many of them peep down before vanishing? Are stars just innumerable flashing sparks in the eyes of people too distant to love? I open a letter rolled into a corked glass bottle that I find floating down the river. There is beauty in this world, but all that's left of the rose bouquets are thorns. Yes, there's a quiet that no one can imagine, and sometimes I lop both my ears off like an even crazier version of Van Gogh, and I dismount the steel donkey. On the other side of the fog is my mom in rehab, my dad the weed addict, my friend that hung himself on Christmas, and a crackhead aunt who died of sepsis. Every 2 weeks, I pay a nice Buddhist lady $100 to hold my hand and tell me I am not a piece of shit. I ask, what is the difference between fog, haze, and mist? She says, criticism is stronger than empathy. Invite a moment to imagine criticism as an object and try to distance yourself from it. With my arms stretched as far as they can reach, walking through the fog/haze/mist, I try to hear the Buddhist lady's voice, but I have no ears. I can't even hear the dying mice squeak. I'll read another poem called Tinder Date. It's about going on a Tinder date in South Korea, in Daegu, where I live, which is the third biggest city. On the way to my Tinder date, I couldn't help but start feeling that meeting people from the internet was damaging my personal mythology, that the pink dolphins that live in the river of the self were being strangled by deoxygenation caused by the toxicity of people taking augmented selfies and ghosting and cat memes. We met for a few ice beers at the Grandma Old-Fashioned Beer Pub, the place where workers get drunk on red plastic chairs at 5 and 6 o'clock, and she said with big eyes that she didn't understand why the world needs poetry, that she didn't get it, that it was needlessly difficult, and there was no meaning. And I said, what is important is not what things mean, but what they do and how they make you feel. And she said art is just a commodity, and she didn't want to live in a chicken box with all these immigrants buying up all the land. And I don't know, sometimes I think there's no poetry, and that all that's left is politics and commodities and memes, and that the system is unjust and broken. And they took away the vegan hamburger option on the menu at Lotteria. And the singers I love keep dying from drugs, from suicide, from cancer, and the polar bears, and the mosquitoes, and the coral reefs, and the hearts do not beat as deep as they did before I discovered internet pornography. And she said, yes, I've got to work tomorrow, so I'm gonna run. And we got the check and drifted apart slowly, like an ice sheet, fracturing, melting, breaking into sea. Thank you. I guess I'll read this one. This is about teaching during COVID. It's called Negative Capability. Today, I got lost in the fog. The brain fog. It was thick with no light at the end. I get paid to grab my students in their black Zoom boxes and drag them into the fog. A blue alligator with no teeth stuck its head up from the swamp and smiled at our feet. I stuck out my foot. I wanted to let the alligator eat me. Eat me, beast, I screamed. I wanted to be entertaining so that my students got something for their money. I said, behold the human sacrifice. But with no teeth, the alligator just sucked and gummed my leg. I bought some medicated cream for the rash that developed. The fact that it itched was something I didn't share. A rash is not something to make into a spectacle. And then, I guess I have time for one more. This poem is about air pollution in South Korea, which is pretty real. When the sky is sky-colored, it's like a pretty fantastic day out there. It's usually very white. Tonight, I am an iPhone factory. My beard protests my face, jumps into the bathroom sink, and self-immolates. The shirts I donated suddenly ignite on the backs of kids when I step in the sun. And girls dangling from monkey bars pull off their skin and toss their pubic hair in the wind. Still hiding from the bomb, underneath the desk with thousands of empty milk cartons, teacher pokes her arm at the board and the board walks out the room. Justice is like that. Our world is without trust. Like stained glass, the sky blushes yellow with dust. Eyes crack and pop. In the lungs comes dust and out coughs pink iPhones. At school, coach with hairy legs digs a hole in the foursquare and jumps in. All night he barks at the dirt wall, depressed like emphysemic cats lamenting the birds they cannot catch, and birds hacking in the sky stick their black tongues out the sides of their beaks and fall to the ground, left for dead with all my deflated tetherballs. After blowing noodles out their noses, fat kids drool on contaminated birds they cannot eat, making slurp, slurp sounds. Birds suck the bodies of suicide girls out the river and turn them to milk liquid shit while I secretly snort ramen packets in the bathroom stall with my rabbi. Dribbling milk drops from a milk box out the straw and onto the stomach of a white goat, saying, "You will be with me in paradise." Rabbi licks 3 hairs covering his lip, and slowly he raises the knife. I accept that vulnerability is the closest feeling we have to human love. And I am with you in this life, the white goat says, and I wave. Hello, kitty. Hello, kitty. Kitty, goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you, Jake. Next up, we have Huang Yuan, who is a poet and translator. He is the author of 4 collections of poetry: White Deer Lake, Supernatural 3D Printing, You Should See Me in a Crown, and Everything in the World Maximized. He translates poetry and novels from English to Korean. Among them are the lyrics from 1961 to 2012 by Bob Dylan, Moby Dick by this guy Herman Melville, By the Sea by Abdulrazak Gurna, Grief is a Thing with Feathers by Max Porter, and most of you poets will know this one, Glass, Irony, and God by Anne Carson. He has won all the awards in Korea, right, Jay?
Most of them.
Please welcome Wang Yuan.
Hi everyone, my name is Yuan. It's my very first time in America, although I've translated some great literatures of America, so it's kind of delayed, but yeah, I'm still so happy to be here, and I'd like to thank everyone who made it happen. And as you heard, we are suffering from this jet lag. And there's one thing good about writing poems and becoming a poet. I think it's we can see things from different ways, from different point of view. So this jet lag is giving me some sense that I've never felt in my life before, and I'm trying to appreciate it. I think it's a bliss. Everyone at home they're sleeping, and we are wide awake here. It's happening on the same planet. Okay, maybe I'm talking too much. So yeah, I'll just read two of my poems. The first one is called 한산에서.
Hanshan and Cold Mountain.
Okay. 겨울엔 발이 차다.
In winter, my feet are cold.
마음은 안 시리고 양손도 따뜻한데 찬 발이 때로 시리다.
Even though I don't feel cold and both my hands are warm, my cold feet feel chilled.
그날 퇴근길에 괜스레 걸어봤던 동호대교. 얼어붙은 한강 위에 서 있다. 일렬로 날아오르던 새떼들 생각을 한 것도 아닌데 찬 발이 겨울 같다.
Standing on the frozen Han, I stood on the Dongho Bridge that I crossed on my way home, and not even having a single thought about flocks of birds that flew away is kind of like winter when my feet are cold.
네가 10년 전에 사준 등산 양말을 나는 아직도 겨울마다 꺼내 신는다.
Every winter, I still wear the hiking socks you bought for me 10 years ago.
방 안에서만, 밖에서는 안 신고 발이 시린 방 안에서만 신다가 겨울이 사라질 것 같으면 다시 벗는다.
But only in my house, not outside. I wear the socks only in the room where my feet are cold and take them off when it feels like winter has vanished.
시린 발로 그동안 가본 모든 차가운 나라라도 다시 가본다.
With my chilled feet, I try to revisit all the cold countries I've been to.
발이라도 차야 한다. 마음이 안 시리면 양말이라도 벗어야 한다.
I've got to kick my feet if I don't feel cold. I need to take off my socks.
그러다 문득 다시 밀려오는 새벽에 발이 시리면
But if morning comes and my feet are cold,
나는 어디도 갈 수 없을 것만 같고 나는 어디로도 갈 수 있을 테지만 어디로 가도 여기서 벗어날 수 없을 것만 같아.
I feel like I can't go anywhere, even though I can go anywhere. And no matter where I go, here is a place I can't seem to get out of.
시린 발이 새벽 같다.
Cold feet are like daybreak.
모든 새벽에 발이 시리고 모든 새벽에 발이 양말을 신길거리는 것 같다.
All the feet of daybreak are cold, and all the feet of daybreak must wear socks.
늦은 새벽 술자리에서 꼰대는 작품에게 너는 시인이니까 멋진 마무리 멘트나 하나 해보라는데
At a bar at late daybreaks, the old dude always says, "You're a poet, so you better say some profound shit before we leave."
시인은 그런 거 대신 그저 양말이나 벗고 시린 맨발이나 보여줄 수 있을 뿐이다.
But being a poet is not like that. It's more like taking off your socks to reveal something like cold feet.
밤새 미친놈처럼 맨발로 혼자 겨울산에나 오를 수 있을 뿐이다.
It's more like being some crazy fucker wearing no shoes or socks that climbs a mountain in winter alone.
정신 못 차릴 정도로 멋진 생각이 떠오를 때까지 그 생각 읊어줄 생각에 이가 다 시려올 때까지
Climbing until you think of something so cool that you can't get your head on straight. Climbing until your teeth ache from just the thought of having to make that thought.
그러다 발이 사라질 것 같을 때쯤 정신이 번쩍 들어 이제는 발목 다 늘어난 양말 양손으로 걸려 그 속으로 너무 늦게 들어가 보기도 한다.
When my feet feel like they're about to disappear is when I get my head straight. Now I'm going to take my socks that stretched over my ankles with two hands, and even if it's too late, I'm going to stretch them wider and try to enter that consciousness.
사라질랑 말락하던 발이 양말 속에서 말랑말랑해질 때까지
In my socks until they grew silky soft, my squishy feet that almost sublimated.
선배 시인 한산도 산중에 추운 밤이면 옛날에 누가 사준 양말 꺼내 신고 잤을까?
I wonder if on a cold night in the middle of mountains, in some ancient time, did my poet ancestor Cold Mountain also take off his socks that someone bought for him and sleep?
알 수 없지만
Even though I can't know.
벌써 10년이란 세월이 흘러갔지만
Even though 10 years have passed already,
나는 아직 잊지 않았다.
I haven't forgotten what happened between us.
이제 이 양말은 전신이 축 늘어져 집에서 밖에는 신을 수 없게 돼버렸지만
These completely stretched out socks. Socks I can't even wear outside my house.
Okay, the next poem is a part of some long poem that I wrote. It's called 초자연적 3D printing.
Supernatural 3D printing.
초자연적인 밤.
On a supernatural night.
나는 늘 뭘 잘 모르고 뭘 잘 모르는 내가 그것에 대해 품는 생각은 늘 실제의 그것을 초과한다.
I don't know much about anything. Me who doesn't know much about anything has thoughts that embrace those things I don't know much about. And those thoughts always exceed the real thing.
초자연의 밤, 초자연적 밤바다.
On a supernatural night, the supernatural sea.
누구도 온전히 수용할 수 없어. 인간 주제, 그래봤자 겨우 쾌와 불쾌 사이를 요리조리 왔다 갔다 할 뿐인 주제.
No one can take it all in. Humanity. To be just human is to roll back and forth between pleasure and pain.
자, 여기 칼이 많이 잠들어 있다. 어느 칼을 깨워 베어줄까?
Here, many of the knives are sleeping. Which knife should I wake up and slash you with?
잠든 칼은 깨우기만 해도 춤이다. 깨어난 칼이 가만히 앉아있기만 해도 춤이 두 눈 번뜩인다. 물에 칼 자국 난다.
Even waking a knife is a dance. Even if the knife is silently resting with two eyes, flash. I can see the dance. Inside the water is a cut.
칼로 물베기 예술을 이번엔 누구에게 보여줄까?
The art of cutting water with a knife. The art of uselessness. Who should I show it to?
칼처럼 고요히 누워있는 물을 누구에게 먹여줄까? 누구 목에 부어줄까?
Water lying silent like a knife. Who should I feed it to? Whose neck should I pour it into?
칼 춤추는 무당아, 하늘에서 보면 너는 붕붕거리는 한 마리 무당벌레로밖에 안 보이는구나.
Lady shaman doing a knife dance. If you look into the sky, all you see is a ladybug buzzing.
아무리 날아봐야 출발지와 도착지가 거기서 거기인 작은 버러지 한 마리로밖에는 생각되지 않는구나.
No matter how much it flies, whether it's the departure or the destination, shit's the same. You see one small bug and the bug always looks like it's in the same place.
먼 눈엔 뭐밖에 안 보인다곤 하지만
Yes, but what you see with your eyes is the only thing you see.
그러나 네 손가락 위를 기어가던 무당벌레는 손가락이 끝나면 그 끝에서 양 날개를 펼치고
Ladybugs that crawl on my fingers, to the very end of my fingertips. They spread their wings and
붕
bzzz,
날아가 버리고
they take off and
뒤에 남겨진 손가락은 날아가는 무당벌레를 한동안 멍하니 바라만 보다 다시 제정신으로 돌아와 뒤늦게 자판이나 두들긴다.
my fingers that stare unconsciously at the ladybugs that fly off come back to their senses and beat on the keyboard, but it's always too late.
춤으로 바다를 다 건너낼 수 있다고 해놓고선 바닷속으로 풍덩 물속에 들어가는 칼처럼 깨끗하게 입수하는 춤들.
Someone said that you can cross the sea by dancing, and like a knife entering the sea, every attempt at dancing enters the water cleanly and plop.
오늘은 유난히 밤이 길다. 바다 끝까지 가라앉는 데 걸리는 시간과 노력처럼 축 늘어진 팔다리처럼 나는 그 팔다리를 다 주물러주고 싶었으나 누구는 그 팔다리를 몽땅 다 잘라주고 싶었을 것이다.
Tonight, the dark is exceptionally long. Like the time and effort it takes to sink to the bottom of the sea, like arms and legs endlessly stretching, though I wanted to massage those limbs, someone must have wanted to chop those limbs off.
더 이상 흔들리며 걸어다니지 않아도 되도록 물처럼 바람에 출렁이지 않도록 다 잘린 너를 식물처럼 땅에 심어주고 싶었을 것이다.
So that you no longer have to swing and walk about, so that you no longer swish in the wind like water, you with all your limbs cut off like some plant. I wanted to root you in the dirt.
흐드러지게 붉은 꽃 필 것인가? 바다 위에 점점이 흩어진 산다와 같을 것인가?
And if I did, would red flowers bloom like camellias? Would they slowly scatter atop the sea?
인간 주제, 그래봤자 겨우 눈에서 딱정벌레가 왔다 갔다 할 뿐인 주제.
Humanity! To be only human is to get the spins so badly that your pupils are like a beetle crawling around a human eye.
무당들이 시퍼런 칼을 먹고 밤새도록 긴 물 뿜어내는 밤.
On a night when shamans swallow navy knives and spurt water until daybreak.
지평선에 가까워져 바닥에 펼쳐지는 몸뚱아리처럼 오늘은 길어지는 밤이 끝도 없고.
Like some flabby body spreading out on the floor that closes in on the horizon. There's no end to the dark night tonight. And
너는 정말이지 환하게 미쳐있다. 아주 멀리서도 다 보일 만큼.
you're so batshit that you're shooting light. So batshit crazy, you can be seen from far away.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. We have about 5 minutes for questions. Does anybody have any questions for these lovely poets?
These books are also for sale.
These books are also for sale?
Yeah, this is an anthology that has both of their poems in it. From a press in Australia called Vagabond Press. Yeah.
You introduced that book, right?
I did. I edited this book also. Yeah. It's very nice.
It's an excellent book.
Yeah. It came all the way from Australia. It came from Korea to Australia to Louisiana. So it's been everywhere.
Is that another pay-as-you-wish type book?
Yeah, man, you know what. Like as much as there's no money in poetry. Yeah, pay as much as you want. Yeah.
So Jake, are those your translations?
Yeah, these ones, the ones that they read today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Questions? Questions?
Do you all give feedback to his translations?
Oh yeah.
Make him change it.
They fix all my mistakes.
How long does it take y'all to work through one translation of a poem? Just one poem?
You ones or J-Ups?
Both, for both, for either one.
You know, man, that's like, takes a really long time. I mean, for a whole book, it'll take like 4 years, 3 years to kill a book. It takes me longer to translate a poem by far than it does to write a poem. I don't know for you if it's the same. Maybe. He translated in Carson.
Oh my God, that's hard.
Yeah, it was hard.
Glass ironing God.
Oh my God.
How do you do the bare ass babu part? Yeah. Footnotes. Endless footnotes.
That's what I do. I mean, that's my job. So.
He translated every
reading out of it, man.
he translated every single song by Bob Dylan. The whole lyrics book. Yeah. Mom is in the basement mixing up the medicine.
That was me. Someone else did it.
Oh, so did you?
Yeah, so they didn't do it.
Remember we were talking about yesterday that it took you a year to translate Moby Dick, Melville?
Oh yeah, that one was special. It took me so long. And I told you that I even did it on my honeymoon. In Italy. So when I think of those passages from Moby Dick, I think of those images that I've seen in a train. I think I was going to Bologna. Yeah, with my wife. I was with my notebook. Yeah, there was a Starbucks scene. He tried to cure Ahab, but he didn't. It's the scene. Things like that. I still remember those things.
Any other questions out there? So if you're looking for a weekend road trip to come to the New Orleans Poetry Festival, Saturday and Sunday, we have the small press fair, we have readings, we have roundtables, we have workshops. We actually have a real number here for you, 39 poetry readings with about 195 poets from around the world. We got people coming in from Norway, we've got people coming in from China, from Uruguay, and also from Louisiana and the United States as well, too. We also have 20 roundtable discussions on a huge variety of poetry and poetics, and 11 free poetry workshops for kind of all levels of poets out there. And that's 9 to 5 on Saturday at the New Orleans Healing Center on St. Claude Avenue in New Orleans. So if you're looking for a road trip, find a designated driver and come on down. They're going to be performing again Friday night. If you want to come down for a little night show, they're going to do a panel and a reading also at Cafe Istanbul, which is in there. Thank you all very much for coming out today, and thank you poets for performing this afternoon. Thank you very much and have a nice day.